Remember kids, hacking is illegal. If you want to run any... Oh wait, this is not an ethical hacking video. This is a video about AWS Control Tower, which is a orchestration service for us to manage multiple accounts at scale. So you may be asking, what exactly is AWS Control Tower? So first of all, you have what we call the management account. So the management account gives us the opportunity to set up AWS Control Tower. So this is the account where we'll then be leveraging several services to help us orchestrate and to set up a landing zone for us. So the first thing we'll look out for is, of course, AWS Control Tower itself. And from Control Tower, we're going to place it as CT. It's going to manage several services for us. And one of that is going to be what we call AWS Organization. So AWS Organization gives us the power to have different organization units, accounts, as well as service control policies that prevent, for example, certain specific resources from being instantiated from certain regions. And within the organization, there will be a creation of two organization units. And one of it, which is called the security, and the second one is, of course, called the sandbox. And within the security account, we have two other accounts. One is what we call the log archive account. So this is the place where we have the repository for all these different logs from all the member accounts. The second account is what we call the audit account. So this gives us read-write access over into the member accounts as an audit account. Next up, we have AWS SSO. So AWS SSO gives us the ability to gain access to multiple of these accounts by, say, only having a user creation once, and after which you can be able to federate into multiple of these member accounts. We'll also be using CloudFormation StackSet extensively. So CloudFormation gives us the ability to have infrastructure as code, meaning that we can write once and be able to target certain member accounts and deploy those different type of CloudFormation templates over into the member accounts. And of course, in this case, we'll be using CloudFormation StackSet to help us be able to do just that. We'll also be using Service Catalog to help us provision all of these accounts. And whenever we are creating a new account over into AWS, so we can have all of these landing zones set up that you're seeing here, like SSO, having the logs being sent over into the log archive account, or having the audit account access, read-write access over into the target member account that is now being provisioned by Service Catalog, in which we call the account vetting machine. If you like ethical hacking tutorials as well as AWS security, remember to smash the like button so that you don't get hacked. Now, without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, in front of us, we are already logged into our AWS management console. So this is the console home. And what we can do now is go ahead and under the search bar, go ahead and enter Control Tower. And once you're into Control Tower, you'll be able to access the service. And one thing to take note of here is we have not yet set up the AWS Control Tower. So go ahead and click under Setup Landing Zone. And once you're under Setup Landing Zone, here, this is the place where they'll be giving you some of the information. So we'll be setting it up for an existing organizations, right? So you show you all of this information, the pricing, the home region. In this case, I am based out of Singapore. So once we have that, we also have a region deny settings. So under the region deny settings, we're able to deny access against specific regions. They're not being governed by AWS Control Tower. And of course, we have the option to decide later. So by not enabling yet, and as we scroll down further, you can see the following additional AWS regions for governance. Do you want to be able to govern all of this multi-region setup that you probably have? So with that, we're going to set that as default. Go ahead and click under next. Okay, and you can see right here, as we screw up, foundational organization unit. So remember, if you recall from the architectural diagram that we drew out earlier with the security organization unit, all right, so we'll leave it there as default. Scroll down a little further, create new OU, and we will let this new OU be called sandbox. And of course, in this case, we have the option of saying opt out of creating OU. So if you want to create organization units later on in AWS Control Tower, you can do just that. So go ahead and click next. All right. And of course, here in this case, we have the following. This is the management account, and this is the email address that I've registered for this account. Scroll down a little further. All right. You have the log archive account. So this is the place where you are going to specify the creation of the account through the specification of your email. And I can go ahead and specify loyliangyang plus logarchive@gmail.com. Scroll down a little more, create account. So in this case, likewise, loyliangyang plus audit@gmail.com. Likewise, we have KMS encryption, which is key management service. So we'll leave that as default. Go ahead and click next. So once you're ready, you can review over here. Review and set up landing zones. So your step 1, step 2, configure organization units, configure shared accounts and encryption. And you have all these different details right here. And once you're ready, okay, you can see on step 4, review and set up landing zone. So you can see right here in step 4, I understand the permissions AWS Control Tower will use, administer AWS resources, and enforce rules on my behalf. I also understand the guidance on the use of AWS Control Tower and the underlying AWS resources. So once you're ready, go ahead and click on it. So I will go ahead and click on it. So once we're ready, in 3, 2, 1, click Setup Landing Zone. And you can see right here, it says the following: setting up your landing zone, estimated time remaining 60 minutes. Okay, so we have the AWS Control Tower. You can safely close this browser tab with the dashboard. Your landing zone is being set up, 2 organization units, all right, 1 for shared accounts and 1 for accounts that will be provisioned by users. So you have all this different information right here. And this is the place where we're seeing this is the landing homepage of the AWS Control Tower. So if you're setting up Control Tower together with me, go ahead and grab yourself a cup of coffee because it is going to take about 50 over minutes for us to complete a setup. So once we're ready, we head back over here and we'll be able to continue and we'll be able to have an introduction to AWS Control Tower. So while you're setting up AWS Control Tower, in your email inbox, you'll be seeing an accept invitation, all right, because of the setup of AWS single sign-on. So remember to go ahead and click onto the accept invitation right here. And once you click onto the accept invitation, this is the place where you now want to set a password in order to be able to log in into your AWS account. So go ahead and enter your password, okay? So in this case, let's go ahead and enter our password, all right? And then of course to confirm on the password again. And once you're ready, go ahead and click set new password, okay? So you see the following: your user account has successfully been created. All right, so now we can log in into our AWS account. At the same time, you will be able to receive an aggregate security notification. So go ahead and click on the confirm subscription. So you can see right here, subscription confirmed. In fact, I waited less than 20 minutes and the landing zone has now already been set up. So you can see it right here, right? The setup of your landing zone is complete. So let's go ahead and click on dashboard. And this brings us into AWS Control Tower service. This is beautiful. And so here we have the landing zone now being available. So 2 organization units, the 3 shared accounts, the native cloud directory that we have configured for single sign-on, the preventive guardrails that are put in place using organization service control policies to help us prevent certain modifications or changes to our AWS Control Tower setup. So here we have the following recommended action. All right, so here one, we have add or register organization units. So you have perhaps different kind of setup, different kind of organization units. You could be structuring them based on different, say, dev, prod, and having multiple accounts within them. This will be the place for you to gain access into. Number 2 is you can easily set up your account factory. So this allows us and give us the power to determine what is, for example, the classless inter-domain range that you want to set up alongside with your AWS account. Next up, we've enabled more guardrails. So there are a lot more security controls that are available for you to place into the AWS accounts or the targeted organizations unit that you have being managed by AWS Control Tower. At the same time, you can also review users and access by going into the AWS SSO service. And from there, you can determine who has access to what. And finally, you can review the shared accounts that's been created alongside the AWS Control Tower. And all of these are available as well on the left side. So whatever you're seeing on the left side right now can all be accessible either from the first landing page or from the tab on the left. Yes, I know there's a lot of service within AWS Control Tower, but no worries. We will learn one step at a time exactly how we can take advantage of AWS Control Tower to utilize and to set up all this multi-account governance at scale. First up, let's go ahead and click on our organization units. And once you clicked onto it, what AWS Control Tower does is that it is an orchestration service, meaning that it's running all of these calls to be able to pinpoint what are the accounts within organization and to list them right here, both the accounts as well as organization units available. So you can see the organization units that we have. So we have the root account, all right, we have the sandbox and the security account. And you can see right here, we have the following accounts being governed. So 1 of 3 accounts are currently being governed. So let's go ahead and click onto say root. And once you're in it, you'll be able to see the accounts that are currently being governed. And of course, you can see the details of the organization unit, the nested organization units within it. And as I scroll down further, right, we'll be looking at some of the non-compliant resources to look out for later on as we turn on more of the security controls called guardrails into our different AWS organization units. And as I scroll down further, we can see the directly nested organization units within root. And as I scroll down further, all right, these are the multiple accounts that we have right here. Accounts directly under this organization unit. So you can see quite clearly over here, we have 3 accounts. One of the account could be called, for example, developer Loy Liang Yang, and then the one called Loy space Liang space Yang. So we can see the AWS config rules, the landing zone version, and of course, in this case, we have the state. And the state tells us clearly that some of these accounts are not currently being enrolled. So let's go ahead and click under, say, one of the accounts. So I click under developer Loy, and we can see right here, we have Loy Liang Yang plus developer at loyliangyang.com. Here is another of our account. And of course, the state states the following: not enroll. So what we can do now, all right, is to go ahead and click onto the organization unit. And what we can do now is that we can begin the enrollment of all these accounts. So once they're enrolled, we're able to apply multiple of these detective security controls over into the account and have governance over into account with AWS Control Tower. So now I'm moving into AWS organization, and in AWS organization, we can see right here all the AWS accounts, and we've selected developer Loy and Loy Liang Yang, and we can click on our actions. And what I want to do now is move all of these two accounts over into the sandbox organization unit and click move AWS accounts. So once we do that, you can see the following: successfully moved 2 AWS accounts to the organization unit sandbox, and I can jump back over into Control Tower. And once I'm back to Control Tower, click under organization units, I select onto sandbox, and I go ahead and click on the re-register organization unit, right? And it will state the following right here: these are the child accounts that we're targeting. Okay, so we want them to be managed by AWS Control Tower. You scroll down a little more, mentions to you the risks and the expectations and all of these different details. And of course, there are pre-checks being done for us. All right, checking, for example, if there's an existing config recorder within the AWS account, delivery channel. All right, and of course, the guardrails that are going to be enforced onto the organization units, which are all of the service control policies that are available. And then after which you can be able to attach them into the specific OUs, apply those security controls over the AWS accounts. And of course, guardrails using service control policies are going to be preventive in nature. So go ahead and select I understand the risks and so on. Go ahead and click on the re-register organization unit. So right now you can see the following: registering organization unit sandbox. So while we are re-registering the organization unit of sandbox with all of those new member accounts, what we can do now is go ahead and take a look at some of the other accounts. Say, for example, if I click on the security, and you can see that the state is registered, and we have the accounts governed 2 out of 2, and we have specific guardrails that are enabled out of the box, which we'll cover later on. So guardrails, you can think of them as security controls, and the 2 types of security controls: one, preventive, and the second one is detective guardrails that we can enable easily into any of the targeted organization unit. And as we scroll down further, we have different specification of non-compliant resources. Later on, we enable one of those examples of a detective control to see what are the non-compliant resources we are able to pick up. And as we scroll down further, to look out for any nested organization units, we can see the accounts of audit and log archive account within it. We have the landing zone version of 2.8 in a state of enroll. And as we scroll down further, we have the enabled guardrail. So in this case, this is the place where we can easily see, all right, what are the service control policies put in place via prevention and using config beneath or under the hood to be able to read specific resource configuration, so to detect on those security controls. So let's go ahead and click on to say disallow deletion of log archive. So once I clicked onto it, I can see right here, all right, so this is written in plain simple English: guardrail, disallow deletion of log archive. So this is a very simple, straightforward, easy to understand security control, prevents policy violations by enforcement. As we scroll down, we can click under the guardrail components of service control policy, and right here it shows us the exact SCP that we'll be using. So in this case, we have deny, delete bucket against a specified resource, and of course we have the exception of the AWS Control Tower execution that is used against all of these accounts. When pause here for a second, you can see right here, sandbox failed 1 or more pre-checks, and this is to be expected, particularly if you have certain prerequisites that are not being met. This is the link provided to you on your email to gain access to AWS SSO. So in this case, we are now going into the accounts. All right, so I've logged in and we can see the following. All these accounts have been created, and I can see the following. All right, so we have administrator access. I can go ahead and click on our management console. So once I clicked onto it, it will bring us over into AWS management console. So all I got to do now is go ahead and click on the control tower, and we'll be brought over into AWS Control Tower dashboard. So on the dashboard, we can go ahead and explore, say, organization units. So here is the place where we are able to identify all of these different AWS accounts within our organization. So in this case, what we can do now is we can go ahead and try to register some of these accounts. Right? So in this case, there were some pre-checks being done. And what we can do now is click on the re-register. All right. And once you're in the re-register, these are the different targeted accounts, all right, with the roles and permissions. And I can click, I understand the risk and expectation. Go ahead and click on the re-register organization unit. So once you're doing that, give it about half an hour to an hour, and after which all of these accounts are going to be enrolled and to be governed and managed by AWS Control Tower. So within about 20 minutes, we now have the sandbox was registered successfully. So go ahead and click on our view OU details. And you can see right here, we have both of the accounts right at the bottom over here. You can see developer Loy and Loy Liang Yang, and with the state of being enrolled. Now we can see the accounts directly under this organization unit has now been enrolled. So next up we have accounts. So right here you can see the following. All these are the accounts that are being listed by AWS Control Tower against AWS organization. So we can see all the accounts that we have, like audit, developer Loy, log archive, Loy Liang Yang again, depending on which of the use case they are currently used for. So now we can always click onto any of these accounts. So say in this case, I click on developer Loy. I click on it. It shows us the email, the config rules, all right, the guardrails are being enabled, the organization unit, and the landing zone version. So all of those details are available directly by clicking onto the account in Control Tower. So let's scroll down with the non-compliant resources, which are checked using AWS config under the hood. And then we've enabled guardrails. So all these are the guardrails that are mandatory guidance. So there are mandatory guardrails, they are strongly recommended, as well as elective guardrails that you can easily turn on later on when we dive deeper into guardrails. So you can always click onto any of the guardrails to expand into it. So next up, we can see the regions. All right, so in this case, if you recall from the earlier setup, targeted AP Service 1 to be governed. Next up, we have Account Factory. So in Account Factory, this is the place for us to very easily be able to create an AWS account. Okay, so in this case, we can specify the account email, display name, SSO email, SSO username, and which organization unit do you want to park this account under. So in this case, we have a single sandbox organization unit. So what we can do here is we can click on the network configuration, we can click on the edit, and over here, we can, for example, allow internet accessible subnet. So only if you click and turn this on. So whenever you create a new account, then it's going to allow an internet accessible subnet. So in this case, we're going to turn it off. And next up, we have maximum number of private subnets that you want to specify. And this is going to be quite interesting because I want to explain a little more about what's going on. Say if you specify one private subnet and you have the following, say a CIDR range or a CIDR restriction. In this case, we have 172.3.1.0.0.16 and the regions for VPC creation, and finally on the availability zone. And one of the highly requested configuration changes, what if I want to centrally manage my VPC and not to be able to allow any of these new accounts to have their own VPC setup? In that case, you can specify the maximum number of private subnets to 0, and you want to update the address range. So in this case, I've updated it as follows. So 10.0.0.0, and what you want to do now is to have the slash over on the end of /16. And once you're ready on that, go ahead and click save. So once you save on this, so whenever you create a new account, no VPCs will be created as a result of that. And here we are on guardrails. So guardrails is going to be the security controls that you can apply down to many of these member accounts. So here you can see the following. All right, so we have guidance of mandatory, elective, as well as strongly recommended. Okay, so mandatory meant that the moment the account is part of an organization unit and they have been managed by Control Tower, all of it are going to be applied onto the accounts. All right, and of course for elective and strongly recommended, you can decide whether you want to enable those different type of security controls or guardrails into the accounts. So here what we can do is we can take a look at some of the examples like strongly recommended. So here is this the following: detect whether Amazon EBS optimization is enabled for Amazon EC2 instances, detect whether Amazon EBS volumes are attached to Amazon EC2 instances, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and click under detect whether encryption is enabled for Amazon EBS volumes attached to Amazon EC2 instances. So let's go ahead and click on it. So again, in simple English, we can understand whether the encryption has been enabled for the elastic block storage. You scroll down and you can see right here, enable guardrail on OU. And from here, we can click under and target, say, sandbox, which we have just migrated a couple of accounts over. Click under enable guardrail on OU. Okay, so once you clicked on that, it may take several minutes for the operation to take effect. So we're using AWS config into the accounts to be able to determine whether we have the Amazon EBS volumes being attached, all right, at the same time being encrypted. Next up, we have users and access, which is AWS SSO. So once you're in here, you can go ahead and expand under, say, some of the available permission sets that are created alongside with the enablement of AWS Control Tower. So you have the service catalog, you have the power user access, administrator access, and all of that. So go ahead and click under, say, view in AWS single sign-on. So this will bring you over into the SSO page. And once you're in here, we have a a dashboard of SSO. So it's pretty straightforward. So one, all right, some of the recommended setup steps is to have an identity source. So it could be your Microsoft Azure AD, it could be your Okta. And what you can do is that you can integrate them very easily so that you can federate from your existing identity provider into the different AWS accounts, okay? So you can run all of that under the settings. So in this case, we'll be using identity source of AWS SSO. Next up, we have the AWS account. So AWS SSO works very closely with AWS organizations in order to list out all of these accounts that are currently available in organizations. So in this case, once you click on your AWS accounts, it will pull out, all right, the organization unit that we have, as well as all of the accounts within the different organization units. So here you can see the following, like developer Loy Liang Yang, and all of that, okay? We can expand on security, we can expand on all these different accounts that we have. So likewise, we can click under, say, permission set. So permission sets are what we consider as a role definition. Role definition in the sense that we're defining how a role will look like with all of the policies in it. And then after which you can then decide which of these users has access to what accounts using what permission set. So next up, we can click on your applications. So this is the place if you want to be able to gain access to other application to AWS SSO. So here in this case, we can target like Adobe Creative Cloud, we have Adobe Sign, and many different applications that are already available out of the box with the application in SSO. Next, we have the users that are currently registered inside AWS SSO. So these are all the users that we have who are accessing the different parts of your AWS accounts within AWS organization. So with AWS groups, they're created when you set up AWS Control Tower. So this makes it really easy for you to add these users to different groups, and then you can manage all of these groups and the associated permission sets to different accounts. So what we will do now is go ahead and click on our AWS accounts, and we'll have a walkthrough of how we can assign permissions to different users. So in this case, I can say target, perhaps sandbox, and I can click under, say, developer Loy. I click under developer Loy, I click assign users or groups. And once I clicked in, I can target a specific user. Say in this case, I will target loyliangyang@gmail.com. Okay. And once I'm ready, I click next. And what I can do next is select, say, AWS administrator access. All right. So we want to have administrator privilege access into the account. I click under next. And once you're ready, go ahead and click submit. And you can see the following: configuring your AWS account. Do not leave this page. So this is the place where we are going into the account so that we have a role being created in the account that we can assume into. Okay. So here you can see the following: we re-provision your AWS account successfully and apply the updated permission set to the account. So what I can do now is I can go back over into application and I can do a refresh. And once I do a refresh over here, you can see the following updates. So we can see AWS account, and we have 5 accounts now that we can access into. And in this case, expand into, say, developer Loy. And we can see right here, we have AWS administrator access. So let's go ahead and click on it. So once we click on it, under Management Console, we can see from the top right corner, we have AWS Administrator Access, loyliangyang@gmail.com. So jumping back over into guardrails, detect whether encryption is enabled, right, for ABS, and we can see at the following, we have non-compliant resources are 0. So we have no non-compliant resources found. So what we can do now is, because inside this account, I do not have any of those resources. So what I can do is I can jump back into AWS SSO. I go into Developer Loy and click under Management Console. And once I'm signed in, what I can do now is I can head over to, say, EC2. And what I can do now is go ahead and, say, instantiate a resource. So I click Launch Instances. Okay. And of course, I can say target a specific instance. So in this case, I can have the software image for it. Okay. And of course, we have Amazon Linux, free tier eligible. All right, we have the instance type and so on and so forth. So once we have all these different details, okay, I'm going to uncheck allow secure shell traffic. So do stay tuned. We'll be having threat detection and investigation tutorial coming up pretty soon for you for your AWS environment. Configure the storage with all these different details right here. Okay, and go ahead under advanced details if you want to target certain instance profile that you want to set up and so on and so forth. So we're going to leave everything as default and go ahead and click on our launch instance. Okay, so we can say perhaps proceed without key pair, click proceed without key pair on it. And now we're launching the instance. All right, and it states the following: successfully initiated launch of instance. Go ahead and click onto the instance over here. All right, so this is the one that we have. All right, so we have the instance that this instance states of pending. We have the storage right here. Okay, and you can see the following: root device type EBS optimization is disabled. Okay, so we can see the volume ID information, and you can see right here encrypted is no. So jumping right back into Control Tower, I can go ahead and target onto the account Developer Loy, and we can see right here it has a compliance status of non-compliant. So if I scroll down further, we can see the following right here, okay? So we have the service, the region in question, and detect whether encryption is enabled. So in this case, we can have the resource ID so that we can flag it out to the resource owner and say, hey, the encryption is not being enabled. Please go ahead and enable it. And under the hood, you can see right here we have external config rules. So you can go ahead and expand on it. So once you clicked on it, it will go into the config aggregator right here, as you can see. So we are on AWS config as a resource tracker, configuration tracker for us. And we can see here the account ID of target. We have the rule name. You can go ahead and click onto the rule, and we show us one more time over here. This is the resource ID, the resource type, and of course the recorded time of things. So if I go back in the control tower, we can see right here, all right, this is a non-compliant resource. Next up, we have the shared account. So you can always go ahead and click under management, log archive, or audit account to view more details about any of these accounts, all right? And we can of course view under the CloudFormation stack set, which can push down with all this different type of configuration into the different accounts. We likewise have the landing zone setting. So this is the place which allow us to say update or repair your AWS control tower in case of any drifts or misconfiguration. So here we can see the version status. We can see the regions, right? The configurations that we have if you have KMS. We have decommission if you ever want to no longer be using landing zone. Okay, so of course we can always click under modify settings. And once you click under modify settings, this is the place where we can specify region deny setting. Okay, so do you want to enable it? So if the region is not being governed by control tower, perhaps you want to restrict further accesses to those services in that region has been denied and only allow access to those governed regions. And finally, we have activities on the left side. So you can see all of these different changes describing the guardrails for the specified target. We have the resource in question. We have the target ID and all this information of the activities. They're running as all these events within AWS Control Tower. So you can keep track of who did what within AWS Control Tower. So once again, I hope you learned something valuable in today's tutorial of AWS Control Tower. Like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you can be kept abreast of the latest ethical hacking and AWS security tutorials.